What time is it?
Pasa pasa.
Time?
Pasa pasa.
Time? Every gal. I go me a
Pasa pasa.
stop, girl, why not? Drink and feel like drink and rave till the morning light, my girl. Center. Have a shot,
Hey y'all, welcome. We want to thank you guys as always for listening or watching and just sharing your time and space with us. Our aim is to share our thoughts and conversations with you, and we truly appreciate you choosing to share your time and space with us. We also pray that you're continuing to stay healthy and that you are now a master COVID navigator. You got your shot, or you are just staying safe out there. So today we are being joined by a special guest to discuss the fourth trimester. But before I introduce him, and yes, him, let us do the rounds for our listening audience. So this is Misha, as always. Carrie.
Hey.
Soph.
I'm here.
Great. Shar.
Everyone.
Okay, great. So we have touched on mental and physical health in the past, but we haven't delved as much into it this year. So 2021, not even a lot during this podcast season. So we did want to at least talk about an aspect of it that we feel may have taken on a new identity during COVID. So one of the things that has not changed due to the lockdown is that people did not stop having babies. As a matter of fact, every week, I'm pretty sure someone popped up pregnant. Now, having two children of my own, I cannot imagine going through the process of like pregnancy, labor, post-delivery in the climate of COVID, like COVID times. And I've heard many stories, and trust me, I'm not trying to push or go through these pains or whatever by myself with this mask on. That was nope. Thank you, but no. And since we're not doing it, we wanted to get some insight into how to make it through this period with our mind still intact, or just to guide someone through the period with their mind still intact. So in that vein, we would like to welcome our guest, Dr. Hayden Hamil. Hayden Koff, so people know, I mean, you're the only guy. I mean, come on. But at least, anyway, I think this is the first time we've actually had someone on the show that was not from Andrews and is from Campion, because, I mean, so many Andrews people. But big up all Campionites. Doc is also a graduate of the University of the West Indies twice over. He first got his bachelor's in psychology before he got his medical degree. I think this makes him an expert in this topic specifically because it kind of merges his experience in counseling and psychology with his medical experience. I do want to invite, before we jump in, I do want to invite Doc to kind of give us a little background of like his experience. You obviously, as I said, went to medical school at UWI. Give us some insight into what you've been doing since then.
All right. So I graduated med school good evening. Thank you for having me.
Yes.
This looks like it's going to be terribly interesting.
Oh my. Thank you for being here. We appreciate it.
All right. So I graduated medical school way back in 2007. Feels just like the other day, but I then did internship. So in Jamaica, it's a 1-year internship. We do not go straight into residency. So I did a 1-year internship. I did at University Hospital of the West Indies, and that being the premier institution at the premier institution, what was expected was nothing short of stellar performance, and that proved to be quite traumatic, but no, it was a lot of work. It was so much work, so many weird conditions. Having gone through there, then I decided I wanted to get my hands really dirty. I went down to Kingston Public Hospital, and you just have to be there, trauma of the Caribbean, and see all sorts of things, see the conditions coming in, not nice and cleaned up by the time they get to UA. This is where everything hits. And so I did there for a while. And then I was in health centers, then learning how to manage primary care, family medicine kind of stuff. Left there, was in charge of a health center. They bounced me about when we had the incursion in Tivoli in 2010. It was near my health center. So they sent me in afterwards. And I was like, yeah, I don't know if I'm trained for this. And they're like, yeah, well, the bus is picking you up at 8. So
Wait, you're breaking up a little. You're breaking up a little, Hayden.
Bomb.
Say that last part again.
I saw the homemade bomb.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And then ran a health center for a couple of years, moved to Indiana, was at Lafayette University where I was tutoring student athletes in statistics, politics, so and started at the Victoria Jubilee Hospital, largest maternity hospital in English-speaking Caribbean, and honed my skills there. C-sections, dealing with the, pre-pregnancy, pregnancy, postpartum, and outside of the puerperal period, just gynecological issues and stuff like that. And now I've launched into private practice. In between, I've farmed, I've done some farming.
Farm. So Jamaican.
Yeah.
Nice.
Cool. Okay,
But
so
balance.
you said balance, medical and farming.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we delve into grilling Doc, we wanted to give you guys an idea of what the fourth trimester is. So technically, it's the first 3 months of a baby's life after birth. For me, I wish y'all were here when we were talking about this before. But anyway, for me, I feel like the fourth trimester has extended for 10 years. I remember one moment just after Trey was born, looking down at him and just busting out bawling, wondering at what point did someone decide that I was adult enough to take care of a whole human? Like, I don't even understand. I even now, I don't even understand who decided that it was time for me to adult. It just makes no sense to me. I don't think I was ever deep in like the baby blues, but I do remember the uncertainty, the lack of confidence, and the worry that came along with the early stages of parenting, some of which still stuck around even now. So I guess let's jump in. Doc, just to clarify, what happens with moms in the first few weeks postpartum?
A lot of what happens in the fourth trimester, the first 3 months after, is dependent on what happened during the pregnancy and during delivery. So let's look at a very basic case. You had a wonderful pregnancy, a wonderful delivery, and so there's nothing that went wrong. Everything was stellar. You still have, as soon as within the first 5 days, 3 to 5 days, your hormone changes start to kick in, because all the hormones that were pretty level during pregnancy start to change. They start reverting to normal levels, or at least trying to get to normal levels. And that results in some mood swings. And when I say mood swings, I mean more down than up. And so there's just this, it comes with that sense of being overwhelmed a lot easier than perhaps outside of pregnancy. And then everything hits you because you've just gone through this magical time and all these changes, and then everything's kind of reverting and your body's trying to go back to what it considers normal or pre-pregnancy state. And so even for someone who has had everything okay, there's still these changes that go through, the whole changes in the fall in the emotions and everything that was keeping you riding on this high. You've got a mismatch where you've been having stability of the hormones throughout pregnancy. Now you have a mismatch, which now leads to difficulty because you're unsure of what's happening inside your body. Then you're bleeding, to put it bluntly. you're losing all that extra blood that you gained. You have to get rid of it somehow, or it's going to cause problems for you. You needed it to run the uterus. The uterus is now saying, I'm done, and shrinking back to normal size. And that takes about 6 weeks. And each time you breastfeed, it contracts. Each time baby cries, you have the potential for it to start to contract. So you're feeling pain while you're doing something that you're told was supposed to be so natural.
Right.
And you're like, what is happening here? This doesn't feel right, but everybody's smiling and saying, oh, cute. And then you have to now deal with all of those emotions, put everything together, like, okay, so love is pain. Wait, when did that happen? And this baby's causing me pain, and it's supposed to feel so wonderful, but it's not feeling so great.
Yeah.
Right? And it's just because that we're hardwired for when the baby cries, baby's hungry, oxytocin to be released so that you can let down some milk, and baby can be fed and all can be well. And you start to feel as if you're, throughout the pregnancy, you were kind of second class, but you thought it would change by the time baby is born. And now you're still second class.
Mm-hmm.
You exist just because of baby.
Yep.
And
worst part is people treat you that way now. Before it's like, oh, the baby is so cute, all this stuff, and then people are like, you don't even exist.
Yeah.
The
What's your
baby
name
is
again?
cute. Right.
And you become mommy.
Yes.
You have no further identity. You're mommy.
Yes.
And so emotionally, psychologically, you have to deal with this. Now, if you have a great support system, it works a little better. If you have somebody who can confide in, if you have somebody who has been through it before, who comes and says, how are you doing? And not, okay, yes, how's the baby doing, everything, but how are you doing?
Right.
Are you feeling, hey, you're 2 weeks now, so you should be feeling this, how is that? This is what I did. I used the witch hazel pads. I used the sitz bath. Somebody starts to speak to you as if you matter. If you have that kind of support, then it helps. So all of this is with a normal pregnancy, normal delivery. Can you imagine if you had a traumatic delivery?
So,
right? You got an episiotomy. So somebody decided to cut your to let out this big-headed baby. Right? So not only are you returning to pre-pregnancy state with the normal changes, reversion in your body, but now you've got to heal from an episiotomy, or maybe you got stitches because you got torn up. Maybe you got a cervical laceration. Maybe you had some problems during the pregnancy, high blood pressure. You developed diabetes in the pregnancy. So now you've got to monitor all of this. And people are saying, oh, well, you have to monitor your pressure and you need to get some rest. Where do I buy that?
they really need to bottle that and sell that. I would buy it. I'm telling you.
Because where you getting this rest from? It's still 24 hours in a day. That baby still wants to be fed every 2 to 4 hours.
Yep.
And if baby is being fed after that, it's your fault. If baby is being fed more than that, it's your fault.
Right.
And you're being told, well, baby will let you know when baby is hungry. And baby cries.
Yeah.
And baby cries because it's hot, because it's cold, because they want some warmth, because they miss the sound of your heartbeat that they could hear a lot clearer when they were inside than outside. So they want so much and they can do very little but cry.
Right.
And you understand that, but somehow you're just lost in all of that. And that now becomes a big challenge. You have a good support system, it's less of a challenge. You don't have a good support system because you can always have people around you, but they're not a good support system.
Yeah.
They spend the whole of the time looking at the baby and the whole of the time telling you, slapping your hand and, what happened to you? Snap out of it. Why are you looking like this for? What is wrong with you? You don't see, have this bundle of joy. Right. Then, for some persons, Mr. Man wants to know when he can go again. And you're saying to him, well, it's sore. No, not right now. And he's like, oh, so, when? you'd like to tell him where to go.
Right? Sure not. Can only deal with one baby at a time.
So he's telling you about his needs, and your needs don't matter.
Right.
So baby telling you about the baby crying and telling you about its needs. Mr. Man telling you about his needs. Everybody else coming around in your second class citizen, third class, fourth, till nobody remembers what your name is. If you're in a situation you have to go back to work. If you are in maybe Mr. Man is not around. Maybe you lost Mr. Man during the pregnancy. Maybe he left, right? Was not planned and there isn't somebody there. So you've got all these other things that can complicate a pregnancy, complicate a delivery, and then you have to deal with them. It can just be hell. It can be so traumatic. It can be so rough.
Yeah.
With all these other conditions. And you just have to figure out where's your support system and who is your support system. And you need strong people there.
So how do you know the difference between because I mean, I feel like everybody goes through that stage where you feel uncertain. You don't know what you're doing. You sometimes feel down, as you said, because your hormones. I mean, there's no perfect like post-delivery where you're like happy all the time. That's not a thing. It does not exist. You don't look at your baby and say, but it's all worth it because I am great now. So how do you differentiate between the baby blues and like real postpartum depression?
All right, so it has to do with the severity of the symptoms and the length of time. In terms of, it's the same principle that's applied to just about any psychological illness. It has to do with the severity and the length of time. So you're expected, and you don't have to, because there's some women who, because they've managed to somehow be super women, don't necessarily feel the baby blues. They don't acknowledge them, so they move past them because they just have to. They're in a situation where they just have to, so they don't necessarily recognize it. Right. And so if you're going through 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, if you're going beyond that, now you start to say, all right, what's happening here? If you've gone 3 months, you have to start to think of it as postpartum depression. So usually they start to talk about 6 weeks, but realistically we think about 3 months, because that first 6 weeks, there's so much happening. It is really difficult for you to say if this is just the blues, this is just life stress, this is just, it's difficult to say. And there is no specific timetable. As much as we give definitions, there's no specific timetable by which you should go through it. But for the individual, but you have to start to think, if I'm not improving, if I'm not feeling any better, if I'm not getting into a rhythm, if I do not feel connected, then you have to, after 6 weeks, 3 months, you have to say to yourself, well, perhaps this is a little bit more than just the baby blues. Yeah. Then the severity. Suppose you're feeling a lot of aggression. Suppose you're looking at this baby, you're looking down in the crib, and you're having thoughts that are less loving. Mm-hmm. Then you have to say, well, okay, I am frustrated. You have to acknowledge, I am frustrated. And if you feel like lashing out, if there's a lot of aggression, you feel like lashing out, you just feel like you're bottled up, then you have to start to say, well, even if this happens in the first 3 weeks or first 6 weeks, something's not right here. So severity of symptoms and the length of time. And where the severity always trumps the length of time. Because if the severity of the symptoms happens within the first 2 days, we've got a problem.
So Doc, I have a question. Yeah. I feel like there's a lot of prenatal care and there's a lot of like timing and scheduling for all the care that the mom goes through. Yes, and it's primarily the health of the baby. It's primarily to monitor the child. But I wonder, is there some schedule of care that insurance companies require for postpartum for the mother? Not the really nothing. That's amazing.
Yep.
That's a you problem.
Because I know they monitor the baby and they have the baby on the chart, and I'm telling you every inch and every weight and the percentiles and stuff, and that's absolutely necessary. But I just wonder, is there not a this checkup, a one
in addition?
like a
in addition to that, they
mom.
have, everybody goes into, well, not everybody, but a lot of people go into the pregnancy. As soon as they find out, then they start a plan. I'm going to eat this, do that, blah, blah, blah. And they go through the pregnancy and they're like, when I get to the hospital, this is my birthing plan. And they plan out the birth. And then that's kind of where it stops. You have the baby, it may or may go according to plan. And then that's it. Baby born, everybody's like, you now have the baby. You should be happy. The baby have 10 fingers, 10 toes. You're not good. Like what? There is no plan after that. You're just on your own.
Yeah, pretty much. The system drops you. They'll follow baby. They'll follow baby for a long time. And there'll be, I mean, I don't want to be mean, but there'll be a casual, cursory kind of look at you. And that's going to be based on any of the issues you may have had during the pregnancy. So if you had any pre-morbid conditions, pre-pregnancy conditions, then, you know, from the medical community, we will try to schedule your next appointment to sort those things out, to get you back on track on any medication we may have had to stop. But it is perfunctory, if I can use that word. It really is not. We're taught that we're supposed to look out for signs of postpartum depression. But after 6 weeks, how am I going to pick up this postpartum depression if I kicked you out of the system after 6 weeks?
Yeah.
Right. And then can I make a little jab at your community just a little bit?
Oh, I'm used to it.
So I feel like they started, so every time I get my regular physical, this is a regular physical, they used to give you a thing to fill out. But then I realized they start asking the questions, but I could tell that either the PA or the MA, they're a little bit uncomfortable asking you how much you drink and how much you smoke. It's like they don't want to ask those questions. I feel like there's a little bit of discomfort when you go to specialties. Maybe a psychiatrist or something might be more comfortable talking about those things, but this is my primary care. And I can tell they're just glad when I say, oh, not much. I'm like, oh, great, okay. Like, she don't need no help. We don't have to ask her anything. And I'm like, they kind of dodging those check questions. I wonder if a little bit of it is sometimes they don't want to get to there. There's a little bit of discomfort with going there. They're very comfortable with the medical aspect of it all.
Well, that's true. We're not necessarily equipped or trained as much as possible in dealing with social things. So, do you smoke? Yes. Okay. Would you like to stop? This is how you can stop. I've got a pill for that. That's as far as we will go. Oh, here's a checklist you're going to go through. You'll tick off. I'll ask these questions. But really and truly, why do you smoke? Is it coping? Is it, how much do you smoke? What do you smoke? Right? All of these things are supposed to be asked. Do you drink? How often do you drink? Do you think it's a problem? All right. And we're not supposed to approach it with any judgment. So, we're not necessarily comfortable asking. Not all of us are comfortable asking, and we're quite happy if you can use a checklist. And if you can fill it out yourself, that'd be even great. All right, I'll glance at the answers and I'll go, oh, great, I've dodged this bullet. The answers fit the norm. But yeah, we're not comfortable necessarily going through those things because those are not easy to modify, and the issues behind them are very complex. And they take time, and there's an assembly line. You have 15 minutes.
Gosh, that's so true. And you did touch on having a support system, and it sounds like we need to at this point rely on the support system to identify if the need is if you need help.
Right.
What do you think? I guess first question, I won't do multiple questions. What are the things that we need outside of you are looking aggressive with your child or you're down all the time? Is there anything else that we should be looking for in our friends? If they're, I guess, in the postpartum period that should shoot up a red flag for us?
All right. So We already spoke about the aggression. You can look at how they interact with the baby. You have to be, it probably makes sense for you to be highly suspicious. Just be suspicious.
Really?
It
With
sounds-
everybody?
It sounds bad. Be suspicious. Because if you're suspicious, you'll see things. If you're not suspicious, you'll overlook things. You'll excuse things.
Gosh.
So you kind of have to be suspicious. And you're not being suspicious saying, oh, my friend is going to abuse her baby. No. You're like, is my friend okay?
Right.
And I'm looking to show that my friend is okay or not okay. And so you kind of have to approach it that way. And you're looking out for your friend, not just the baby. Yes, the baby is important, but I have to look out for my friend. So you have to approach it as, how is my friend coping? So you have to ask the questions. Just like it's uncomfortable for the medical fraternity to ask, I can just imagine how much more uncomfortable it is for a friend to ask this kind of question when we've all been taught that you're supposed to be well right after having a baby. All is supposed to be well. And if there was an issue, then we can focus on that. You know, how's your pressure doing now? How's the diabetes doing now? Oh, how'd that cut do? Oh, this. And then we have to be prepared to avoid the cookie cutter answers or responses. Oh, that's great. Yeah, man. Yeah, man. Oh, don't worry. That'll blow over. You don't want to do it, right? How is it? Because some persons are going to try and hide the fact that they are not feeling as connected to the baby, and that can happen. They're not feeling as connected, and you know, so people feel, how's breastfeeding going? Oh yes, when I was going through it, it was this. Perhaps now's not the best time to tell your friend how great a time you had, when they may or may not be doing it. So let's not set out to tell them how wonderful your time was or how wonderful somebody else's time was.
Right.
Let's just ask. Rather than, we don't want to go the other way and say, you know, it was terrible, it was just the worst. But you want to say, you know, how was it? There's so many different reactions. Women have so many different responses to this thing. It's, you know, you can never tell. You know, sometimes you just feel a little disconnected. Not all the time. Babies, nice. Love babies, spongy, wonderful, soft. But then they cry. And they cry. How are you handling that? Are you getting any sleep? How much sleep did you get last night?
Yeah.
And look at your friend with the baby. Observe. If they're holding the baby very tightly and cuddly and it just seems a little contrived, a little too
forced, yeah,
wonderful, you have to say, yeah. Start asking some questions. You know, hey, what's happening with you? How are you doing? Hey, this apartment or, you know, your house, the heat is on. Are you feeling warm? You look at how they're dressed. Oh, would you like me to you know, hold the baby, watch the baby a little bit while you go grab a shower? You know, those little things.
Yeah.
Hey, did you eat?
Because
Have
that
you
is a
eaten
real
yet?
thing. Yeah.
And no, yeah, did you eat? Good, you know, you have to keep up your strength for the baby. No. Did you eat? Are you hungry? Hey, I noticed I don't see any dishes. You haven't eaten. Come on, let me cook something for you.
Right.
Fridge. Oh, you haven't been to the supermarket yet. You need a supermarket trip? Things like that. No.
Got you.
Under COVID, not so easy.
Right. That was going to be my next question.
Not so easy. It becomes even harder. So you're uncomfortable. There may be details you don't know about the pregnancy or the delivery that's impacting how the you know, your friend is coping or how you are coping or whatever, and you're not necessarily, you know, the person doesn't necessarily want to share all of those details, so it's difficult for you to figure out, and so now you have to start to offer to help in whatever little way you can, and then all of a sudden there's COVID and you have to stay 6 feet away, and you know, and you can't say, oh, I don't want to get the baby sick. I don't want to get you sick, so you get the baby sick.
Right. Seriously.
You know, you have to. It's hard. It is so hard, and we're almost pre-programmed to want to take care of the baby to the point where we're not looking at the mom, and so in the whole COVID scheme of things, where you're thinking about how to how to assist, you can still slip into it's about the baby, it's about the baby. It's about the two of them.
Yeah, that's important. So if I want to pull you in real quick, I think we have actually discussed on the podcast before how you had a difficult, I don't want to say difficult, but difficult. Okay. Lizzie was pre-me, and that was a difficult time for you. What, looking back at it, because I'm sure when you're in it, you're like, I'm just doing it. I'm just floating. I'm just literally surviving. But looking back on it, what got you through that time?
Sure, if I asked a question earlier regarding the insurance, if they provide any services, and I was going to comment, but I did not. I think it depends on what happened, right? Because my insurance provided a lot of services for me after my daughter. Because again, my daughter came out at 2 pounds 11 ounces. Just put that out there. It's like that my number now 211. But I was assigned a nurse that literally called me every single day. And if I'm thinking back, I don't think at any point did she ask me about the baby. It was just all to talk to me.
Really?
Yeah. And I needed that because my mom, I had a great support system. They were amazing, but there were things that I could tell her that I wouldn't have told my mother, or I wouldn't have told my husband. My daughter, she was in the NICU, so I wasn't able to bring her home naturally. And that was hard.
Yeah.
That was, I don't know if there's a word to explain what that did. And I felt like I couldn't tell my husband because I knew it was hard on him too.
Right.
So me going to him to tell him what I was feeling, I know would only make it worse because now he's worrying about me and he's worrying about the baby. So I didn't tell him what was going on with me. And then my mom, who I did say a little to, I didn't say too much because I know my mother and her blood pressure. And I know if I'm stressed, she's going to be stressed. Right. So I didn't want to put that on her. So I put on this facade that all was well, and I laid it out all on my nurse. And I'm not, he talked about support system. That nurse to this day, every now and again, we still communicate. She no longer get paid for me, but we still communicate because she was such a source of strength because as he was just explaining all that happens to a female with a natural pregnancy and a natural birth, I'm saying to myself, well, let's throw premature in there with a baby that you're told that may not see and may not walk and may not talk. Throw all of that in there with all that's happening to your body at the same time. That's enough to drive anybody crazy. And I'm not gonna lie to you, I was 2 seconds away from it, like 2 seconds away from crazy. But my nurse really did. I had a nurse for the baby. When the baby came home, I had a nurse that came and checked on her. But I also had a nurse for myself. And she was, honestly, I can say the number one person that got me through because she had never said to me, how was the baby? She was like, the baby already have the baby's nurse. The baby will be fine. We're talking about you. And even when we talk about the baby, she was like, Sophia, when the baby nurse comes, you talk to the nurse about the baby. I want to talk to you about you. And he's right. That she really did help me through it. So yeah.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah, I guess it depends on your circumstances, the insurance. I don't even know, but I did have a nurse and I know she was for me because she really only talked to me about me.
Gotcha. Now, let's ask the first question. Did you at any point, she was pre-me and she was pretty small, blame yourself for it? Like, what did I do to...
To this day, I still blame myself, even though everybody and the Lord has told me it wasn't my fault. I still blame myself. And I don't know if I told you guys this, but when my doctor found out that there was an issue, they wanted to put me on bed rest. And here's why I blame myself. They wanted to put me on bed rest, but me being the dedicated teacher that I am, refused veteran. And against everybody's wish, I refused it, and I was determined not to because I didn't have days to stay home with the baby. So I went to work, and my job was a stressful situation, which is one reason she wanted to take me out of work. But something happened the last day I was able to work, which is why to this day, I'm still, I still, every time I look at my daughter and I think, it's my fault why you're still so tiny. But I mean, I guess it gets better every day, but in the back of my mind, I
Right.
still do.
Do you think you would have found that support outside of if it wasn't provided for you? Like, do you think on your own you would have looked for it? Because you said you wouldn't have talked to your mother or your husband about these things. Is that something you would just carry with you? Like, I'm just going to deal with that internally. Or do you think you would have reached out to someone and said, hey, I just really need to get this off my chest. This is how I'm feeling.
I would have carried it. Because for me, me telling someone close to me the stress that's bothering me, it's going to cause them stress. I'm like, everybody have their own issues that they're dealing with. I don't want to put it on anybody. As you can tell, I didn't talk to any guys about it. I'm like, because I know my friends, I know my family, and I know what everybody's going through for the most part. So for me bombarding someone else with my issues, in my head, this is how I convince myself. Not that it's right, but in my head, I'm putting more stress on them that they don't need, right? I wouldn't have talked to anyone. And like I said, my husband, nah, to this day, he still don't know half of what I went through. To this day, he doesn't know that I drove to my nurse's office one day without an appointment and walked in the office and told the secretary, I need to see her. And the secretary said to me, she's in a meeting. And I sat in the lobby and just burst out crying with the baby looking at me, and the baby started crying, and we're both crying together. And the nurse is like, ma'am, I don't know what to do. And I'm like, I just need her. She literally went and got her out of her meeting because I'm in the lobby bawling. The baby is bawling, and she couldn't get neither one. Well, baby couldn't leave, but she couldn't get me to leave.
Right.
She doesn't know that happened. I
Right.
wouldn't have.
I mean, to me, it sounds like what needs to happen is there needs to be a mental health expert involved in post-pregnancy. I have never thought of that was necessary. Somebody who, is a specialist in that. Hayden, is there anything or any route or any procedure that you think new moms, and I guess when I say new moms, I mean moms with new babies, because you could have two kids and the third one is just completely different than the first two.
Right.
But moms can do or go to get help with that. I mean, Soph could literally walk to the hospital and know who to go to. Who can moms go to outside of their friends if they're not comfortable, outside of their parents? What are the options? Are there any options?
Before you answer, Misha, I must add real quickly that the hospital that I had my daughter, and I think that's the reason why I had that, they have a really, really good package system for families of premature babies.
Gotcha.
Like when I say a package, to this day, I can still know who to call for what. And they follow the kid up until the kid is 16, 18, no, 16, I think, maybe 18, whatever.
Regardless, it's a long time.
Yeah, they follow the child. They still, to this day, still reach out. I still get cards from them checking in on the baby. But I don't think every hospital have that same system. I really don't. So that may be one of the reasons I was so lucky in the system that I had, because that hospital was really known for their NICU or premature area.
Section. Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Aiden, go ahead.
That makes sense.
Pointed out, some hospitals, some places are equipped to handle situations like that. And they'll let you know, they'll give you the pamphlet, they'll give you the talk, whatever, and give you the information that you need if you're in such a situation. Not everybody has that kind of situation or support. And then at that point, you don't know who to turn to, you don't know who to reach out to. And you kind of feel like you have to kind of plan it out while you're in the pregnancy to look around and say, could this happen? Maybe I need to know. That puts a lot of pressure on you because somehow you have to navigate pregnancy and then figure out how you're going to figure out your own issues. But every situation is going to be a little different. And some women will have to kind of look and say, well, who are my close friends? Who can I talk to if I have this issue? Within a family, within a context of friendship, or at the hospital as you're going through the pregnancy and getting your checks and stuff, who do you gravitate towards? Who do you identify as somebody you could speak to? And I think you have to more than likely tackle it from that perspective. If none of that happened, you've just gone through, you didn't think about it, or you figure all would be well, or you didn't even think about anything beyond delivery, and now you find yourself in that situation, probably best to contact the same hospital, just your delivery team, whoever, somebody from there, and keep trying. How it goes, you keep knocking on the door, it must be open. The trouble is persons who are going to keep everything, bottle it in, and are not going to keep knocking that door, whether they feel fear or shame, or just they're so disconnected from everything, are not recognizing that they do need help. That is where you have the problem, because if you don't know that you need help, then you're not going to seek it. If there's nobody to say, hey, I think we need to go in, and then it's not, I don't think you're having a problem, I think we should talk to somebody. Who do you know? Who can I call for you? Who can, that kind of situation. Let me grab some of your the doctor, the nurse, something.
Yeah, but is that overstepping though? I feel like a lot of these feels like I don't want to. It's just like when someone has a baby, I don't tell them what I did or what I suggest. I mean, if they ask me, I'll tell them. But it's the same thing with if I mean, I'm trying to put myself in their shoes with regard to like when I first had my child. People are like, you shouldn't co-sleep. You should not co-sleep. And you're like, but it's so easy and this is great and it's working for me. And then 2 years later, you're like, I shouldn't have co-sleep. But in it, you're not trying to hear that. I mean, you're just this new mother trying to navigate, and everybody's, life is different. So I personally know I don't want to overstep in anyone. So if you're like, listen, do you want help with this? Do you want blah, blah, blah? Can I help with that? Can I get you some food? Can I do that? I almost feel like I'm overstepping, like I'm now encroaching on, your, like, am I judging? Do you feel like I'm judging you because now I'm suggesting all these things? I guess I would need to do it subtly. I don't even know how, as a friend, to navigate that. Because of course, I'm not having any more kids, so this does not apply to me. But for all my other friends on this podcast who are planning to have more children, maybe, I have no idea, or for just anyone else I know, it's just a little delicate situation where I'm like, how do I say to them, hey, I am here to help you, even though you don't feel like you want to lean on me. I don't know how to get you to lean on me. Like, I don't know how to get you to say that you need these things without it seeming like you're failing as a parent. I'm serious. It's hard. It's hard because then it's like, I can cook for you. What are you saying? I can't parent and cook? What's really good? Right. So, it's just that I don't know where the line is. I don't know how to navigate that. I don't know if anyone else has any issues navigating that gray area. And especially, we surround ourselves with a lot of Caribbean people, and mental health in the Caribbean community
does not exist.
It's not a thing. You can't say to somebody, you really need to see a therapist. I'm sorry, what? No, that's not a thing. So I just don't know how, I still don't know how to navigate that.
It's not easy. There's no easy answer. You have to, you look at the culture you're in, you look at the, I mean, I'm going to assume you kind of know a little bit about your friends and can kind of pick up if they're a little off, if they're a little out of sorts, and if that little out of sorts is lasting a little bit longer than usual.
Right.
And you kind of know who you can go to and say, hey, what's wrong? And who you have to sneak in and say, I found this great pasta place. And I just knew you would love to taste this new pasta. So I brought it for you, rather than, I know you ain't cooking.
Yeah, I
Right.
agree. I agree. And I guess we do have to be in people's lives to do that, not just assume that, okay, I need to step out, but be present to be able to know who you're dealing with, etc. Okay, let's segue, because I don't want to go too deep into other things. I do want to talk about one last thing.
Okay.
The snapback. The snapback is a thing. It is real. And as much as I don't think it was much of a thing when I had my children 10 years ago, it has now become like, oh, it's been 6 weeks and my stomach is on point. Like I'm like, the doctor tells you do not even pick up the baby at this point for in the 6 weeks. So I don't even know how'd you even lose that belly? How is it? Do you think we're transformed into do you think it's still a normal thing where we are focusing so much on the physical aspect of post-delivery?
I think it's abnormal.
Okay.
Because you start to set a timetable for people and not everybody's going to achieve that. Some persons are not really worried about that, and then you start to impose that value onto them. Some persons are very to them that they're failing at that. And so I think it goes a little too far when we start to say, yeah, by 6 weeks, this should happen. By 3 months, yeah, it's going to take you about 9 months to lose that belly. I know people who delivered, and when they came to 6 week clinic, I'm like, who are you? Oh, doc, you don't remember me? I'm like, no. I'm so, and I'm looking at the docket and I'm like, but you were swollen. You were twice this. Where's your twin? There was more of you. I don't understand.
There was more of you.
Right? Some people just drop everything and they did nothing.
Yeah.
And it's unfair to look at somebody else and say, hey, you're supposed to stick to that timetable.
Yeah.
It's really not fair. I don't think it's fair. I think we're pushing it too much. If somebody wants to do it and that's the aim, by all means, you give them the information that they do need and say, okay, well, it's going to be a little bit of a challenge. I know you can rise to the occasion, so you can knock yourself out without knocking yourself out, right?
Yeah,
but to some people are just, no matter what they do, they're not losing that belly fat. Some people, no matter what they do, that belly's not getting nice and taut. And, and then you're hitting the gym with the baby on your back. I'm like, why? Why?
Yeah.
Buying all these creams to try and rub out the stretch marks. I'm like, why?
Why? Yeah.
Some people wear them like battle scars, but then, what we have to recognize. Everybody's different. And once we start to impose a certain order on people now, you're going to leave some people in the lurch. You're going to leave some people behind, and some people are going to race so far ahead. And race. You're adjusting to so many things.
Yep.
Take a little time to get past that, adjust. And then you say, well, oh, this belly, I kind of like it. Or,
yep, that's
okay, some sit-ups, let's see how that works.
Or not.
Or not. I don't feel like, oh, I'm going to eat wafers and 2 grains of rice.
No.
Why?
Yeah, exactly.
Be kind to yourself. Be kind to yourself. Yep. That was a huge battle.
Seriously. You pushed the whole child out
battle.
Or got pulled out. The baby got pulled out. So
whatever it was a huge battle. No man has ever done that. Right?
Seriously.
And,
Yep.
and it's just, it's, to me, I don't understand. I
Yep.
don't understand
I don't understand it either.
the pressure that
I have a quick question for Doc. I'm curious about your thoughts on, right? So we have this historical data about Black women's maternal health. And I'm curious, do you see that changing? Do you see that improving? Like, what are your observations about Black women's maternal health?
a little different. We're in a majority in Jamaica.
Right.
So it's just women's health.
Yeah.
As opposed to Black women's health.
Yep.
There are still some vestiges of colonialism. There's still a shade mentality. Yeah. And so, if you are off, but our issue mainly in Jamaica is classism.
Right.
So you're more likely to be heard if you scream in the forest if you have some money.
Right.
If you come from a certain socioeconomic background.
Yeah.
And it becomes difficult to navigate. So the question to answer that, is it changing for a particular class, the lower class, which is going to mainly be Black women? I have seen improvements. In fact, most of our systems are geared towards them. And so you still have a mentality that you have to overcome. Mm-hmm. But there are valiant warriors in the fight out there trying to make sure that no one slips through the crack. Mm-hmm. Teenagers, teen mothers still get a very hard time. They're not dealt with as adults, okay. I'll admit. You're a child having a child, and they're going to treat a set of responsibilities, and you're going to have to kind of step up to it. And we do have social support systems in place. They follow them and they ask them questions, but it's mainly about, all right, are you ready to, how's the baby doing? How are you doing getting back in school? But some contraceptive methods, let me get that in on you. Now, from my brief experience in the United States, I had a friend, I can't say a patient because I wasn't licensed to practice there. The persons who had issues. And there was one person who, having had 4 children, had a very soft tummy and also ended up with an umbilical hernia that was pretty large, and she needed to have it taken care of. Her OBGYN did the surgery. No, did not do the surgery. In fact, was on leave and asked a colleague to do the surgery. And that colleague did not do such a great job.
Gosh.
And then promptly went on leave and asked somebody else to attend. And she had a complication from the procedure. And so I had to now help her to navigate the system. And so I had to give her drop that would make them now say, oh, wait, this person has somebody in their family who knows something, or this person knows something. And so all of a sudden they had to now start to step up and do better. And I honestly believe it was because she,
yeah,
Black,
yeah,
that she was not given the quality of care that she ought to have gotten. And it seemed pretty basic. I said, why are they calling you back in 2 weeks? No, post-procedure, you should be reviewed at this time. Please give them a call and tell them the following.
Right.
And that's how she got sorted out. I said, why they chose this antibiotic for your complication? No, it's worthless. The what is used in this state is this. This is what you need to get. And if they don't have it, this is an alternative. In fact, I think the alternative is a lot better. That's what we use back home. This is what you need to get. So we had to advise accordingly because, you know, they're not so great.
I love how you say it with a smile.
More
It's unfortunate because a lot of people won't have this
black
type of
bodies.
advocacy, right? They won't have this type of knowledge. Yeah,
Right.
they don't have access to these. I won't say access. The information is there. But when it comes to medical information, you need someone who's familiar with the ins and outs, right? Knowing which antibiotic is good for this thing and that thing, right? So sometimes it's access to information, but also you need an expert who is your advocate.
Right.
And so it sounds like there's this, right? For us in America, it's a race issue compiled by class, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And of course, in Jamaica, it's class compiled by economics. And all the other.
Right.
Right.
Right. It's interesting.
So.
Well, there are so many things we could talk about. I mean, so many aspects of it that we could talk about when it comes to all aspects of like maternal health and how to navigate post-pregnancy and even during pregnancy, etc. I think this was a great conversation. I think there are lots of things that I'm now paying attention to, things that I probably would not be paying attention to normally, where I'm just like, listen, just like everybody else, I kind of did it, I kind of made it. So I'm gonna allow other people to do it, but just through a new lens. I will give everyone a chance to this is our moment to like wrap up. Give everybody a chance to like say their takeaways, or if they have any final things that they want to say or any questions real quick that they want to ask. This is your time. Anyone want to jump in?
I'll just quickly say thank you for sharing such a wealth of information. I think it's been helpful to hear kind of how to check in based on your friends. I definitely have a few friends who've given birth during the pandemic, and it's hard. It's hard to check in on them, especially when they have a partner, right? They have a husband, so you're like, all right, they good. They have a whole husband at the house. They have an extended family support. So you think all is well. But I don't know that I'm paying as much attention to them around, that's my friend, so let me just check in on my friend.
Right.
So I think that's probably the most significant thing I'm taking away from this conversation today. Thank you for that.
I agree. Shar, you want to say anything?
So on Perry, I think that's the most relevant piece to me right now in my age and stage in life. And thank you very much for your time and expert opinion. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
So you are currently muted, but once you are unmuted, you can tell us.
Oh, sorry, I didn't realize. No, I must tell him thank you, because a lot of the things that I experienced as he was talking about the hormonal change and the uterus contract and all that stuff, it's good to know that I wasn't alone.
Yep,
See, a lot of these things I thought was just me because my daughter was premature, but I didn't realize it's like across the board with all females. So that was information that I'm glad you shared that I didn't know. I will say regarding the check-in on the friends, as Sharon Carey mentioned, I thank you for that. But I do caution the checking in should happen with some wisdom, because I just remember with myself when people did try to ask me how I was doing, there were times when I didn't take it I didn't take it in a good way. I felt like it's because I'm failing why I was being asked that question. And I kept saying, do I look like I'm failing? Is it because can they see that I'm failing? You know? So for me, it was just like, why everybody keep asking me that? Why do I look like I need help?
Right.
Even though maybe they genuinely did care and wanted to know how I was doing. So it's like a thin line. And I love the way he said, if you want to bring them food, just say, listen, I found this amazing restaurant. I love it, because I feel like if somebody said that to me, I wouldn't have taken offense to it than if a person say to me, let me cook you dinner.
Right.
So
right.
yeah, there's like I don't know how to tell you. I honestly can't even tell you how to do it. But I would just say like proceed with caution, be wise with the word choice. It's a thin line. I don't know how to explain the line, but it's there.
Seriously. Yep.
But I
feel like, you know what? No, like he said, know your friend.
Right.
So don't go to every single friend and start jumping in. You know who your people are.
Right.
Don't be like volunteer. Like,
yeah, that's what I say too. I completely agree. I mean, the gray line is definitely there, and you have to know where it is and how to navigate it. And especially with them not even knowing this person that they are, that you become a new person. You don't even you don't know who you are without a baby. Like I can't even remember myself pre-children. That's not a thing. I'm serious. Like I'm a whole different person. My hormones have changed. I've changed. My outlook has changed. Now this is a whole new person you're navigating. So the gray line I'll shrink. Or get bigger. I don't even know. It's just, it's so complicated, but you can't just give up on it and say, well, this is too difficult. This is too hard. They'll figure it out. Everybody figures it out. Once you're a mother, you'll get it. I just don't think that should be the outlook. But yes, Doc, any final words, and then we will let you get back to your night.
I just say be kind to yourselves. You have to be kind to yourselves and be kind to each other. If you start out from a place of love, yeah, you'll step on a few toes. You might get some clapbacks, but
yeah.
So say, look, I love you.
Yeah.
Here's some food. I'm gonna run away now.
That is great. Okay, well, we appreciate your time. I will tell the ladies that you had to shut down shop early so that you could do this. So we appreciate that you gave us your time and not your patience. Sorry, patience. So if I know I call on you. So
not a problem.
I always have an advocate in my corner. I know that. So we appreciate the time and we appreciate you. All right, guys. So we will see you in 2 weeks again. Stay with us. We have some more informative. We've been doing a lot of informative podcast episodes. So stick with us and we'll give you some more. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Bye. Bye.